Hi, welcome to Senior Moment Successful Aging. I'm your host, Mary Beals-Luedtke. I'm the director for the Area Agency on Aging at NACOG, and you can reach us toll-free at 877-521-3500. Senior Moment Successful Aging is co-sponsored with the Division of Lifelong Learning in Yavapai College and the Area Agency on Aging, NACOG. If you have any questions about today's show or maybe some suggestions about things you'd like to hear about in the future, you can call 717-7607 or you can call our toll-free number 877-521-3500 and ask for Curtis. Today's producer is Curtis Kegley, my administrative assistant at the Area Agency on Aging, and thank you very much for your time, Curtis, in putting this show together. Today we have a special, they're all special guests, but a special guest today is Sergeant Ben Scott. Hi, Ben.
Hi, good morning.
Can I call you Ben?
You bet.
I mean, we go back a little ways.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining us today.
It's my
all
pleasure.
In uniform. I like that you wear your uniform when you come on these. You've been at our conferences, and that was very impressive.
Well, yeah, they frown at me if I don't wear anything. So.
Yeah. Kind of like the emperor with no clothes.
That's right.
Yeah, that doesn't work. Yeah. So I want to start out, Ben, with a little bit of your background. You know, how long have you been with the Prescott Police Department?
I have been with Prescott PD. It'll be 20 years in October.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I had some time with the Tempe Police Department before I came up here. Okay. So I've been around for a while.
Yes, you have.
Yeah.
You know, kind of like me. That's why I know you so well. So, and when did you become sergeant?
Back in 2003.
Okay, so 2004 is when I became director. So
nice.
We have similar career paths in different areas. And I'm excited about today talking about something other than crime.
Yep, it's nice to do that.
Yeah. You know, because I'm sure that takes up a lot of your time. But, you know, I know, and I want to make sure our listeners and viewers know that the police do so much more for the community. And you're working on a very special project that's near and dear to my heart, and that's the Alzheimer's grant that you've been working on. So what's a little background on that grant and how it came about?
Well, let's see. The grant is over now, but we had a grant from the Bureau of Justice Assistance that was a 2-year grant, and it was, in a nutshell, it was to bring, how we met, you know, through partnerships with agencies that are related in some way to the Alzheimer's and dementia diseases. And then I think the bigger side of that was getting law enforcement more dialed into the disease in terms of how we deal with people that have the disease. And then you go one step beyond that and how we deal with caregivers. And so there was a big training component. I really had very little knowledge on any of this stuff. You know, in law enforcement, we get trained to deal with all kinds of situations and all kinds of behaviors. So it's not like it was a completely foreign concept for law enforcement, but you know, it's always nice to get information and training on how we can be better at what we do. So I was a big fan of that. You know, and so that's, you know, since then it's still, we are still doing some of the stuff with, with Alzheimer's and dementia.
So, you know, like you said, training is a big part of the component, and understanding how to deal with somebody who has dementia, I would think is very beneficial to the officers when you get called, because I'm sure there are crimes related. You know, can you give me an example of something you'd be called out on with an Alzheimer's patient?
Oh, yeah. You know, the interesting thing, for the last 2.5 years now, I don't know if I'm more aware of Alzheimer's and dementia, but, you know, listening to stuff on the radio, it seems like we're dealing with that on more frequently than we used to. And, you know, the things that, you know, officers encounter, somebody who wanders away or a missing person type of an investigation, or coming upon someone that either a concerned citizen calls in or stops because they see someone that they think is maybe lost or struggling in some way, and then having law enforcement get into that loop. Those can be very, very time consuming. We were able to kind of potentially streamline that process through some things we did through the grant. But like a scary one is a domestic type of a call. Scary in that officers go to these different locations. They're in people's homes. They don't know what to expect. People will say that's one of the most dangerous crimes that officers can respond to. And then you throw someone in that's has some chemical issues or Alzheimer's or dementia issues. So you never know what you're going to encounter when you get to the house or the apartment, wherever the call is. So it's nice having as much information as possible before you get there, and that's another piece to some things that we did with the Alzheimer's training and program in the grant.
Well, I would think that knowing that someone has Alzheimer's, you would react differently than a regular call. Are you able to then connect with the medical community rather than putting that person in jail? Because they can. My mother has Alzheimer's, and she can become combative. Is an example.
Yeah, and again, you're right on a lot of fronts there. The last thing we want to do is jail's not the appropriate place for that person. And I can tell you it's challenging because, the domestic violence laws in Arizona are very absolute, if you will, in certain situations. And so, again, relationships with the hospital and some other, organizations, the better we can educate and understand Alzheimer's and dementia, we can better apply, our skills to determine what is another route that we can do to make sure that this person is safe and can't hurt anybody else, can't hurt themselves, because what we don't want to do is leave them in the house and then they kick off again and now they become violent and they don't even know what they're doing. That is a really big concern for us. And through the grant we worked with some people in the community and the Alzheimer's Association, and we came up with what we thought was a pretty good tool for us that can give officers, first responders, fire, and our fire counterparts, information about someone living at a location that has Alzheimer's or dementia. And so en route, it's pretty neat. We have computers in our cars, and we have a computer-aided dispatch center. And so things can be entered in, linked to an address, and so the officers and firemen can get a little bit of information about who's there if we have information to put in the computer. And that's what we did with Alzheimer's and dementia. So if officers get dispatched to a domestic situation, there are comments in that call that come in from the person calling. So if we have someone that we know that has Alzheimer's or dementia and has registered with our department, then they can put that person's a little brief bio in there. So anytime a call comes out to that address that's linked to that form, those first responders have an idea that, okay, now we have to think about this, and that is going to potentially directly affect our response there. And as long as, we still have officer safety things that we have to concern ourselves with. But, we know that there's no normal domestic, but it's just another facet of that. If you look at it as an onion, it's another layer of that onion that it's nice to, it's nice to be aware of.
You have more tools going in, rather, because I can remember, 25 years ago when I first got into the aging field, that we were having problems with law enforcement incarcerating some of these older individuals, not knowing or understanding that whole process, and we've come so far the other way, and it's nice to know that you have that information. So you mentioned registering. So how does that work? How does someone register their loved one with the Prescott Police Department?
Well, we call it the Alzheimer's Alert form. We have a PDF of it on our website. Okay. We have them at the station. The caregiver can look at the form. I think it's 3 pages. One's an instruction page, and then there's 2 pages where they need to supply some information. Then once they complete that, and the only stipulation we have is they need to have a diagnosis of Alzheimer's or some form of dementia. And we don't ask for proof on that, but there needs to be some background, so that's where that diagnosis comes in. But they complete the form, and then they can drop it off at our police department, or they can mail it to the address that's listed on that front
Can they
page.
email it?
I don't think they can email it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it needs to be mailed in. But that routes itself to our communication center, and it's important, Mary, that people understand that this is not something that we use to, as police officers, to search and get information on people because we're bored or something.
Yeah. Like you have time.
Yeah. This is something that's the original copy gets processed through our dispatch center, and then they have a notebook. It's nothing fancy, but they keep that hard copy available 24/7. If the first responders need any more information about that person. So then they can go pull it, they can find it, and they can give, they can answer the questions that those first responders may have. And again, if a call never comes in, because the form's completed, it's assigned a number, the CAD information is placed into the CAD system, and it's linked to the address where this person lives. For us, you have to live in the city of Prescott.
That was my next question. Okay.
Yeah. And so if we never get a call from that house, the information it's like it doesn't exist. So everything is linked to that one location. Then we're like, hey, well, since we have all of this information, how can that help us with wandering situations?
Right.
Because like I said a little bit ago, that can be extremely manpower intensive, labor intensive, if you will, and time consuming.
And dangerous.
Yeah.
For the client.
For the client, yeah. And so we came up with a process where the second piece to this is once the paperwork is completed, we have a bracelet system. And the bracelet is nothing fancy. It's a medical alert bracelet. I brought one in.
Yeah, it looks like just looks like a little Medi alert.
Yeah. And so the assigned number is engraved on the front of it, and in theory, it's big enough that if the first responder is paying attention, they can see the number on the face of the bracelet, and understand that, hey, that looks like one of Prescott's bracelets. So they have the number. They can call into the dispatch center and say, I'm out with bracelet number 12. Can you check it? I think it's a Prescott bracelet. Then again, now that works backwards. They can pull that form. They can look it up, have a short conversation, and make sure that we're dealing with the person's physical matches. And then that form has emergency contact. It has the caregiver's phone number. So then we can start from the dispatch side of it, calling, saying, hey, do you know where this person is? And then reunifying them with their caregivers. So it's set up to work very quickly. There are other registries out there. The Alzheimer's Association has a nationwide registry. And it was interesting when we talked about we didn't want to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
Meg Fenzi, who's the director of our Alzheimer's office here in Prescott, was very supportive of us doing one locally, because she says, sometimes people get lost in an umbrella, or that umbrella is just too big, and it's nice as an investigator, and I'm sure for the the medical side with the fire guys, it's nice to be able to get questions for medications, behaviors, who's responsible, who's the doctor immediately. We don't have to be looking. I've been on calls where we're going through people's Rolodexes, if you know what a Rolodex is, but trying to, and it's time consuming.
And especially in a medical situation, timing is everything.
Yeah. And then another piece to that whole grant was, I mentioned education, and so myself and 2 officers I work with got trained for Train the Trainer. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but you go to a class and they teach you not only the topic, but they teach you how to train the topic so you can bring it back teach others.
Right.
So we went and got certified to teach Alzheimer's and first responders training. I can tell you it's the hardest thing I've ever had to teach, and I'm one of our general instructors, and it's just so much. But we've done 3 classes this last summer, and it excuse me, it had fire personnel, people from the VA, law enforcement officers from different agencies, law enforcement officers from Prescott PD, and so we're slowly getting this training out. So that, again, like I said, after going to that class, I had no knowledge on it. So it's an evolving process. I'm one of those that believes we can always do a better job, and it makes us better at what we do.
It absolutely does, and I was thrilled when I first heard about this grant, obviously being in the field of aging and knowing what a huge population of Alzheimer's clients we have, and it's getting bigger. So yes, you're focused more on it, but you are going to see more and more of that. And how do we help our community deal with Alzheimer's? And the training is a huge piece of it as well. I'm glad to hear that you also brought in the VA. So how do you partner with the other law enforcement in our Quad City area?
We really do have a really good relationship between agencies on most everything. It's sometimes things between agencies go very, very quickly. Like between us and Prescott Valley. Prescott Valley started they have an Alzheimer's alert program for residents that live in their town. That happened very, very quickly. But we had the infrastructure for that because we dispatch or the Prescott Regional Communication Center dispatches for Prescott Valley.
Okay.
So it was very, very easy. Through contacts in that class, the chief of Chino Valley's police department went to one of our classes, was very interested in that program, and has continued to show interest in it. That becomes a little bit more challenging because the sheriff's department dispatches for Chino Valley, and they have a different setup. So in the last, let's say, I guess since January, we have had 2 meetings with the sheriff's department surrounding not only Chino Valley but also the sheriff's department. They're very interested in providing that service for not only Chino Valley residents but for Yavapai County residents. And then you start geographically looking at, okay, the makeup of Yavapai County, this side of Mingus, they, may be easier for them, but then what do they do on the other side of Mingus? So it opened up a lot of challenges for the sheriff's department. I have a lot of faith in our sheriff and in their department, and they're still looking at it. They're just trying to figure out the best way to put that in place. There's a lieutenant that I've been working with the sheriff's department, Lieutenant Martin, and so I have given him all of our paperwork and processes that we used. So I'm hopeful that will manifest itself in a usable fashion for them, and then that piece with Chino Valley will fall in place. So parts of that have gone quickly, and then I don't know what they're doing, internally on it, but they have a lot of challenges. So, but they have a lot of sharp people over there too. So hopefully they'll figure it out soon.
It's wonderful that you were able to share that infrastructure, so they didn't have to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah,
that's great.
It is. It's really, it's really cool. And I believe that the sheriff's department, because of the size of their jurisdiction and the size of their agency, and the credit to the residents of Yavapai County, that they need to have their own program, and we can support them in any way possible. But there's lots of things that come up, and it's always kind of nerve-wracking when you have that first meeting, and I'll tell you, my supervisor extremely supportive of it. It all came together, and I was in a room filled with people from all aspects of that organization, and they were very, very interested. And then, I called a second meeting like 2 weeks later, and I was like, they're going to strangle me, because, we just had this meeting, and sure enough, everybody shows up, and everybody was great, and we got over a couple other little bumps, and so it's just, we have a really good professional group of deputies and employees over there, so it was neat.
Well, on the registration piece too, I think that what comes to mind right away is my staff making sure that we make sure that folks know about that. If they call in to our toll-free number and they are from Prescott and they have someone with dementia, we need to start asking them, are you registered with the Prescott Police Department? So that's something that we will do.
Well, what's really, and we need that, there's Dr. Gelber, who's big, and I'm going to get this wrong, psychologist, psychiatrist, but he specializes in Alzheimer's. I've rubbed elbows with him a number of times since the grant, and he's a huge proponent of it. So that's what it's going to take, is word of mouth with people, and not only that are dealing with the disease, but professionals that are out there, and to get that ball rolling. Like our program 2 weeks ago had 50 people enrolled in it. That's probably, it's a good number.
It's a good number, but it's small.
Yeah.
Compared to what I'm just thinking in my head right away. So I think it's important, for our viewers to, spread the word that they need to contact the police department if they know someone with Alzheimer's. Get them registered, get that bracelet, let you help them.
Yeah, and let us help them when they need it in the best possible fashion that we can. And there's challenges along the way. I can tell you, right now we have it in place when patrol deals with a situation like that. Our patrol officers will send that information up to me and my section for us to follow up with, with the family and with the people, and give them the opportunity, explain what the program is, and leave it up to them if they want to get that, registration packet,
It's so heartbreaking to deal with the disease in so many ways. And this is another aspect of it. So it's just, another form of support. We always encourage folks to call in. We have caregiver programs that can help support them, respite, adult daycare. But it's important that we also have this aspect so that they can register and know that they're going to have the support of the police department should something happen with their loved one. Should they go ballistic on them? Should they wander? Because I know we talked about this before, that wandering is a bigger problem than folks realize. And that then you get into search and rescue too. And doesn't the YSCO do that?
Yeah, the Sheriff's Department they have an outstanding search and rescue group, and our procedures and policies in place with Prescott. We will, if we get to a certain point, then we resource to them. And so, that's another piece to that, that teamwork, if you will. But the wandering thing, and then you look at, okay, what happens when they get in a car?
Oh yeah.
And that opens up a very big challenge for us. And then if they go across state lines, then that's even a bigger deal. And they have the Silver Alert that's up and running, and so that's fairly new. And every once in a while you'll see that. I remember when we were in the conference and they introduced that in Flagstaff. On my way home, there was one. And so
that quick.
Yeah. So we're getting better, but again, I'm a firm believer that we need to hammer this stuff out now, because in the future, if forecasts are correct,
they are.
I mean, it's going to be a huge I don't know, I guess it's a problem, if you will, but it's a huge issue for all of us.
A huge challenge,
Yeah.
for sure. A huge challenge for all of us. And Yavapai County is really kind of the litmus test for the rest of the country. We're already there, and we're just going to get more and more and more. This is one of the bigger counties for aging in the state of Arizona, and likewise in the country. So, and I know that this grant was not available in very many places in the country.
Yeah, it was the Mesa Police Department, our police department, and then there was an agency back in Florida that were awarded this grant. So that's kind of a big deal.
It is a big deal. Yeah. It's a very big deal, and it makes me feel safe in a couple ways, safer, because hearing about the cooperation between the agencies is important. You know, you hate it when someone says, oh, that's not my jurisdiction. You guys have a cooperation with not only the police department, but the sheriff's department. And also knowing that if my loved one wanders or I'm having a domestic issue, that if I've got them registered, that's going to help the officer be better informed when they come into that situation. So it's, you know, how fortunate are we that we have your team and that grant, that even though the grant's gone, it lives on what you've done and the work that you continue to do.
Yeah, I'm proud of that. You know, and the budget, at least for Prescott, is a challenging time. You know, the manpower issues are a challenging time, and they're talking about cuts. You know, we will continue to do the best that we can and support this program. You know, and it. You know, we've taken that step, you know, building trust with people that, we are still going to do this, and, you know, that's what we're going to shoot for. So it comes at a good time. You know, I hope that, you know, there's an opportunity for us to get another grant, but we'll continue with, you know, the road that we're on, so
Excellent.
to speak. Yeah.
Let us know if there's any way we can help at the Area Agency on Aging. And again, I have a meeting with all my care coordinators coming up, and I'm going to be discussing this with them to make sure that's added to their list of resources to make sure we get these folks registered. Because if they're not registered, that's not going to help you. So if you know somebody who has Alzheimer's, or you're caring for somebody with dementia or Alzheimer's, please, if you live in the city of Prescott, you need to go on that website. And what is the website?
It'd be the City of Prescott's official website, and then you look for the police page, or the police, it's the police page. Click on that, and there'll be information about it there.
And if you have any questions, you can still call the Area Agency on Aging toll free at 877-521-3500. Sergeant Ben Scott, thank you for all that you do for our community.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Really appreciate you being here today. Thank you for joining us today. This is Senior Moment. I'm Mary Beals-Luedtke. Until next time.